Interactive. Thank you again for joining us today to take a look at what international travel brands have been doing on Chinese social media platforms Weibo and WeChat over the past year, and what's working the best in terms of attracting readership and interaction. Although the focus of this webinar will be our findings from 2019, it doesn't make sense to ignore the situation that has affected China and Chinese outbound tourism so deeply in the first months of 2020, which is the coronavirus crisis. So I'm going to start today's presentation by giving a brief overview of how tourism brands are addressing the situation on Chinese social media platforms WeChat and Weibo. We'll then turn to Q4 2019 Weibo rankings, which is the first ever in-depth analysis of outbound tourism marketing on Weibo. Next, we'll move on to WeChat with our third full year of data on travel industry performance on this platform. At the end of the webinar, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. You can ask these at any point during the webinar by using the Q&A button on your Zoom control panel, and then I'll answer them at the end. Please do use the Q&A button instead of asking questions through the Zoom chat, as they can be easily lost in the chat feed, and then I might not be able to see and answer any questions that were asked there. I will be sending out a copy of today's presentation slides to all of you, as well as a link to a recording of the webinar in the next day or two, and you're welcome to share that with colleagues. If you've attended any Dragon Trail webinars in the past, you probably will have heard from me before. But for anyone who's new, my name is Sienna Perulis-Cook, and I'm Associate Director of Communications at Dragon Trail Interactive. I focus mostly on tracking trends in Chinese outbound tourism and digital marketing, and I publish articles and reports on these topics on a weekly basis on the Dragon Trail Interactive website. I have written every WeChat rankings report we've ever published starting in 2017, and I'm also the co-author of the 2019 edition of China, the Future of Travel, which is an industry handbook on Chinese outbound tourism. Dragon Trail Interactive was founded in 2009, and the company focuses exclusively on digital marketing for outbound travel from China, including B2C initiatives to help our clients reach Chinese travelers through social media and websites, and B2B training for our quickly growing database of more than 47,000 Chinese travel agents. We have 3 offices in China and international offices in London, where I am based, and in Lexington, Kentucky in the US. We work with more than 80 clients on 6 continents, and with a range of industry verticals within the tourism sector, including tourism boards, airlines, hotels, attractions, and more. So although the real focus of today's webinar is social media tourism marketing from 2019, I didn't feel right ignoring the 2020 coronavirus crisis, since this is having such a large impact on travel from China, among other things. We have a lot of resources on tourism and coronavirus on our website. This includes a daily updated blog post, a deep dive analysis of WeChat in the last 2 weeks of January, resources to help plan for market recovery, the recording of our February 5th webinar on the crisis, if you didn't manage to catch that, and more. So today I just want to share some of the different ways that tourism brands have addressed the crisis, using examples that have had a particularly good response on social media platforms. So the first kind of response that we've seen on social media quite a lot is official statements that are put out by national tourism boards. Here you can see a letter from Visit Britain, which was published in early February, and it's a letter to the Chinese travel trade, ensuring them of support. Next to it on the right is a letter from Brand USA, which is explaining travel restrictions to the US at present. Both of these posts on WeChat received way above the average number of views for content posted by Visit Britain or Brand USA on WeChat. Actually, the article from Brand USA received almost double the number of views as Brand USA's most viewed WeChat post of all of 2019. Both of these posts have received very positive responses from readers on WeChat as well. Both posts have used very warm and courteous language, and it seems like the public is very happy to receive this information officially, even if it is kind of bad news telling them that they can't visit the US at this time. Another common type of post on WeChat from both national tourism boards and smaller destinations is articles that not only express care and concern, but most importantly, provide medical information and other emergency contact details for Chinese travelers who are already in the destination. Again, readership has been very high for this kind of article, and the responses have been very positive. More relevant to businesses than to destinations is information on cancellation and refund policies, which is very practical, and obviously a lot of people want to know about this kind of information. Offering very liberal cancellation and booking change policies not only helps people who actually have bookings, but we can see from the comments on these kinds of posts from hotels, cruise lines, and airlines that actually having these liberal cancellation and rebooking policies reflects really well on corporate brand image and makes people think better about that company. Some tourism brands have made donations to send medical supplies to Wuhan. Tourism Malaysia and Qatar Airways have both sent planes filled with supplies like masks and other protective clothing. Their Weibo posts about the donations got some of the most engagement on Weibo the week before last. There are also many posts sending moral support, especially through video content, and these have made a very good impression too. There's one post here from Royal Caribbean International where you have staff on board the cruise lines holding up signs of support, as well as a short video, and a short video from the Tourism Authority of Thailand. And you can find out more information about these kinds of videos and Thailand's approach from our February 5th webinar that was all about the coronavirus crisis and how it affects tourism and how tourism brands are responding. So finally, it's very important to realize that the vast majority of Chinese are not sick, but they have been stuck at home in semi-quarantine for several weeks already. And this means that they're really bored and looking for entertainment. There's a lot more that can be done in this area, and I would expect to see more posts like this in the coming weeks. So far, I've seen a list of Edinburgh-related film and book recommendations on Weibo, as well as a discussion on book recommendations from the Art Institute of Chicago on Weibo. And then on WeChat, there is a series of posts that's giving viewers video tours of San Francisco's Asian Art Museum in Mandarin. So now let's look into what travel brands were doing on Chinese social media before the coronavirus crisis hit. And given what's happened in the meantime, much of this might feel like it was a long time ago already, or that it's not relevant for the current situation. But understanding what worked best under more normal circumstances will help when we do start to see a recovery of tourism later this year. So we'll get started with Weibo in the last quarter of 2019. Weibo rankings for international travel brands are a new project for Dragon Trail, which we started in September of last year. And our first ever quarterly report for travel brands on Weibo was published on our website just before Chinese New Year in late January. So you can find more information there about some of the details of our findings with really detailed numbers and charts with all the rankings and more of an in-depth discussion on some of the numbers and percentages and things, but I'll be giving kind of a broad overview of our findings here. Like for our WeChat rankings, we are tracking Weibo accounts in 6 categories. These are national tourism organizations, or NTOs, destination marketing organizations, or DMOs, so this means regional and municipal tourism boards, airlines, cruise lines, museums and attractions, and hotels. The data that we collect includes the number of followers for each account, which is something that you can see publicly on Weibo, unlike on WeChat, where that's hidden. We're also collecting data on the number of posts published, total engagements, including likes, comments, and reposts, and engagement rate, which we calculate by dividing total engagements by followers. On WeChat, you can see the number of times an article has been read. but you cannot see this information on Weibo unless it's your own account. So instead, we are ranking accounts based on the total number of engagements that they receive. The data from our first quarter of rankings reveals that national tourism boards have the most followers and engagements. DMOs publish the most posts. Airlines tend to post less frequently than other kinds of accounts, but this doesn't necessarily have a negative effect on the engagement rate. Attractions overall have the highest engagement rate, but as we'll see more later, this data was heavily skewed by just one post by one attraction. There's actually not a very strong correlation between follower numbers and engagements, and even less correlation between the frequency of posting and engagement. So this shows us that it's it's the content of the post that is having the biggest effect on engagement. The number one surefire way to generate high engagement on Weibo is to work with celebrities. This is usually, but not always, Chinese celebrities, and the celebrities are often actors and actresses and pop stars, but sometimes they're athletes too. Almost all categories of accounts had some celebrity content in Q4 2019, especially destinations, followed by airlines. So here you can see some examples of posts featuring celebrities from Brand USA, Visit Norway, the Catalonian Tourism Board, and the Empire State Building. So in November of 2019, the Empire State Building had one post about a Chinese celebrity named Roy Wong. He's also a UNICEF ambassador, and so he was invited to turn on the Empire State Building lights for World Children's Day. This one post on Weibo got more than 30,000 engagements, with a 182% engagement rate for that week. And this post has therefore really skewed the results for the entire attractions category, and especially the results for the Empire State Building. While celebrities can bring a lot of engagement to your posts, this engagement does not necessarily lead to engagement with your brand. Celebrities have large fan armies on Weibo that will like, comment on, and repost anything with that celebrity in it. And we found that often the comments were only about the celebrity and not about the place they were traveling or the airline they were flying. But on the other hand, KOL, so key opinion leader or influencer content, actually did seem to stimulate engagement that was more relevant to the brand, since KOL followers are generally going to be very interested in the KOL specific topic of expertise, such as travel. So if celebrity-driven engagement is not something that you can afford to pay for, or if you decide that it's not the strategy you want to take, how do you drive up engagement on Weibo? The examples that I've chosen here do seem to imply that cute mascots and green shirts is a good strategy, but that is really just a coincidence. One good way to drive engagement is by running contests where people have to comment and repost to enter. This does tend to generate a lot more engagement with the actual brand content than celebrity content does, and it's an especially popular strategy for airlines, although other accounts do it too, and the post that you can see here is from the Seattle Tourism Board. If you don't have the resources to organize a giveaway, another good strategy is just to ask a question. So the example here is from the Gunma Prefecture Tourism Board in Japan, and they asked followers how much money they spent on the Double 11 shopping holiday. Other questions that got a lot of interactions on Weibo in the last quarter of last year included, what's your New Year's resolution? Do you always bring your own shampoo when you travel? Which destination in this country would you most like to visit? Asking questions like these doesn't just stimulate engagement, but it can also give you some valuable insights on your most loyal followers. So now let's look at the top accounts, starting with national tourism boards. If you rank them by total engagements, the top 5 accounts for the quarter were Finland, Denmark, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and Norway. If you rank them by engagement rate, the top accounts were Finland, Thailand, Denmark, Norway, and Peru. We also took out all of the celebrity content and ranked accounts that way. And the accounts with the highest engagement rate then were Scotland, Peru, Thailand, Norway, and Portugal. Finland comes in 7th place if you take out all the celebrity content. So no matter how you look at it, Scandinavian and other Northern European countries had a very good quarter on Weibo. And the example that I've chosen to include here was a popular post by the Danish National Tourism Board that showed a group of Chinese celebrities in Denmark. Moving on to DMOs, it's more geographically mixed, though Scandinavia still scores quite high because of celebrity content in Copenhagen, and Berlin also did very well thanks to their Chinese celebrity ambassador. I should also note that sports-related content is quite popular on Weibo, and Berlin posts quite a lot about soccer or football. Texas tourism has a very strong account that focuses on places to visit in Texas rather than any kind of celebrity content. And Edinburgh's account is also very strong. Nagasaki has one of the highest engagement rates that is not impacted by celebrities, but this is largely because of a contest that they ran to win a free trip from Shanghai to Nagasaki. For airlines, it's the biggest airlines that fly a lot of short-haul routes in Asia that get the most engagements. But more niche airlines with smaller follower numbers get the highest engagement rates. Iberia Airlines got a lot of attention for giveaways in the last quarter of the year, and there's one example that you can see there with the map of Spain on the front. Aeroflot is also an interesting account because although they did get a lot of engagements for their promotional video featuring Kobe Bryant, they also did very well for a variety of more eclectic and travel-related posts, including one on sanatoriums of the former Soviet Union and another on a Russian dog show. I haven't listed engagement rate without celebrity content here because it's actually nearly identical to the general engagement rate rankings. With the exception that Iran's Mahan Air is actually in second place for engagement rate and Aeroflot is in third, so they've just switched. For cruise lines, there were actually only 7 international cruise lines that posted more than once on Weibo during the entire quarter. The engagement rates for cruise lines are also very low. This could be related to the content. They didn't seem to post too many giveaways or any kind of celebrity content and instead posted mostly about facilities on board. But it also could be because Weibo is most popular with Chinese who are in their 20s and not the key demographic for cruises. The Chinese cruise market does tend to be younger than the global cruise market in general, but not that young. A couple of examples for cruise line content that did stand out were a few giveaways that were run by Dream Cruises. You can see an example here on the left of a Thanksgiving Day giveaway that they had, as well as a short video featuring economist Xue Zhaofeng for Viking Cruises. Since his following is much more niche than a pop star or an athlete, we would consider him as a KOL rather than a celebrity. For museums and attractions, as I mentioned before, the results are quite skewed by Roy Wong's visit to the Empire State Building. But even if you remove that from the equation, the category of museums and attractions actually still has the highest engagement rate of any of the 6 categories that we tracked. Museums tended to post about artwork and exhibitions, and the Art Institute of Chicago publishes monthly phone wallpapers, which are quite popular. You can see an example of their wallpaper posts from December on the right-hand side. Some of these accounts with very high engagement rates that you'll see with the ranking of the top 5 accounts by engagement rate, they actually have very low follower numbers, and that can make it quite easy to get a high engagement rate. So for example, the Auckland Explorer bus only has around 200 followers, which is actually fewer followers than I have on Weibo, although I haven't posted anything on Weibo in the past 6 years. So if you only have around 200 followers and you just get a few interactions, that can lead to a quite high engagement rate. The last category is hotels. Hotels posted a wide variety of content, including celebrity and KOL promotions, and information on loyalty programs, individual properties, and seasonal sales. Like with airlines, if you filter out celebrity content, the rankings by engagement rate are almost unchanged. The post examples that I've included here are a video about social outreach by Hilton, which was reposted by a celebrity and then got 4.5 million views, and the post behind it is by Radisson. Radisson's Weibo account is quite interesting because they often post about international properties, whereas their WeChat presence is strongly focused on domestic properties. So now on to the WeChat rankings for all of 2019. Dragon Trail started tracking NTOs, DMOs, airlines, and cruise lines on WeChat at the start of 2017. So we now have 3 years of data on these categories and nearly 2 years of data on museums and attractions and hotels, which we started tracking in April of 2018. So just looking at the kind of top accounts for those 4 categories, we can see that in 2019, all 4 of those categories' top accounts had a higher average for views per post compared to the average views per post that they had in 2018. That said, national tourism boards still have, the top national tourism boards still have lower average views per post in 2019 than they did in 2017, although they have made up some ground and recovered a bit from the big dip that we saw in 2018. And I think there are a few possible reasons for this, where we can see that national tourism boards' average views per post are not growing the way airlines or cruise lines or even DMOs are. So first of all, there's more competition as more tourism boards have joined WeChat. Second of all, we can see a gradual increase in readership for DMO accounts. So especially for big countries like the US or Canada, travelers could be focusing more on regional resources than the national accounts. Thirdly, political tensions caused both Canada and the US to cut down on WeChat marketing at the start of 2019. Actually, Canada posted 68% less in 2019 as it did in 2018, and the US and Canada are both in those top 20 or top 10 NTO accounts. So this really affected those accounts when we look at 2019 as a whole, although both of those accounts from North America saw some recovery by the end of the year. And if you want to check each quarter of WeChat rankings to track how they did throughout the full year, you'll be able to find all of those rankings on the quarterly reports on our website. The Q4 rankings are included with the report for the full year for 2019, if you just scroll down to the bottom of that. So looking at 2019 reading rates for all accounts in each category, not just the top accounts in each category, we can see that cruise lines actually had the highest average views per category, in contrast to their low engagement rate on Weibo. Next is airlines, then NTOs, hotels, museums and attractions, and DMOs. In general, average reading rates stayed quite consistent for each category in 2019, except for cruise lines, which increased average views in the second half of the year. So if we only look at NTOs and DMOs, this shows us which parts of the world get the most views and the highest average views on WeChat for tourism marketing content. So apart from their national tourism board accounts, the US, Australia, and Canada all have quite strong DMO accounts. And as you can see from the chart on the left here, those 3 countries get around 1/3 of all views for tourism marketing content on WeChat. For WeChat rankings, we rank accounts based on the total number of views for their content. Japan had another great year on WeChat in 2019, and Japan was also the most popular international destination for Chinese tourism in 2019. They have a very active strategy on WeChat, and they posted 23% more content in 2019 as they did in 2018. They also managed to increase average views per post by around 4.5% compared to 2018. Japan's top performing posts tend to feature natural seasonal beauty, and they also post quite a lot of area guides. New Zealand again did quite well on WeChat, placing second for the second year in a row. They have the highest average views per post, and they have a very consistent strategy of always or nearly always posting about natural beauty and beautiful landscape pictures, and I think they have quite a loyal following. Australia did really well on WeChat in 2019. They moved to third place, up from fifth in 2018. They did so by increasing their content by nearly 20%, although the average views per post did not change too much between 2018 and 2019. And their content strategy included a lot of posts of cute Australian animals. Thailand is one of the few countries that has multiple accounts on WeChat that are run by tourism offices in different Chinese cities. So in 2019, Thailand comes in 4th, 5th, and 7th place on the WeChat rankings. But that said, if you add up the total article views of all 3 Tourism Authority of Thailand accounts, they still would not have as many article views as Japan got in 2019. So that gives you some idea of just how popular Japan's account is. The overall DMO rankings for the full year of 2019 don't show dramatic changes compared to 2018. However, if you look quarter by quarter, you can start to see how the sharp fall in mainland Chinese tourism to Hong Kong has played out on social media. Although Hong Kong published half of the 10 most viewed DMO posts on WeChat in 2019, those were all in the first half of the year, and this really started to drop off as protests escalated in the summertime and tourism started to decrease. The Hong Kong Tourism Board basically stopped posting altogether on WeChat in Q4, and they ranked 31st for the quarter, below Minnesota, Canada's Northwest Territories, and Stockholm. For the #1 destination for Chinese outbound tourism, this is quite shocking. Vancouver continues to do better and better on WeChat every year, moving up to 4th place this year from 5th place in 2018 and 20th place in 2017. And it was another strong year for South Australia that seems to be moving up 1 number in the yearly rankings every year as well. Airlines were very stable in 2019 in general. Cathay Pacific, which is ranked in 6th, it saw a bit of a decline earlier in the year, which was in part influenced by the Hong Kong protests, but they were doing very well again by Q4 of 2019. AirAsia still dominates this category, but All Nippon Airways had a fantastic year in 2019, and they increased total article views by close to 30%, in part thanks to their frequent giveaways. And you can see a couple of examples of the giveaways that they ran on WeChat here. The growth in views for cruise lines has really been driven by Dream Cruises. They went from having just over 860,000 total views in 2018 to more than 3 million total views in 2019. Their posts are beautifully designed, though the content mostly focuses on sales promotions, route information, and onboard facilities, which is very similar to content from other cruise lines. Museums and attractions are a very interesting category because almost all of the top museums on WeChat saw a really significant increase in average article views in 2019. The biggest surge was for the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, which generated a lot of buzz before its reopening in October, and they increased average article views by around 108% in 2019 compared to 2018. The Getty Center in Los Angeles increased average views by over 85%. The Art Institute of Chicago increased average article views by more than 69%. The British Museum increased average views by more than 57%, and the Louvre increased average views by nearly 17%. So all of this is strong evidence to support other data and anecdotal evidence that shows us that Chinese interest in museums and cultural tourism is on the rise. We started tracking a lot more hotel accounts in 2019 than we previously had in our database in 2018. So some of the hotels at the top of this list are newcomers. That said, Marriott, Hilton, and Shangri-La are still some of the top performers. Hotels all seem to have their own strategies, with Marriott publishing a wide variety of topics, including a real stress on family travel that we saw in the summertime. Hilton did more to publicize member benefits, and Bulgaria Hotels and Resorts focused on domestic properties, cultivating a very luxurious image. Malia Hotels, interestingly, like Radisson's Weibo account, publishes quite a lot of content about their international properties, whereas many of the other hotel accounts will sometimes write about their international properties, but focus primarily on their domestic properties for the Chinese audience. 2018 saw some really strong themes on WeChat, especially food and flowers. 2019, on the other hand, was a bit more eclectic, though in the first half of the year, there was a lot of content that focused on romance, and then natural beauty was a hot topic, but it always is, and we've seen that for all 3 years of our WeChat rankings. What we did notice in 2019 was more and more short video content on WeChat and more interactive content. As the field becomes more competitive, brands need to find new ways to engage readers, and there are some very creative solutions to do this. Some brands have launched little games, which also ask questions and help to collect followers' data. So some of the examples here was a scavenger hunt game launched by Korean Tourism, and a game launched by AirAsia for Children's Day, where you went around an airport and answered some questions and then found out how childish you were. Another popular new feature is posts where you need to either tap or swipe to reveal hidden pictures. The example here is an incredibly popular article that was published by Tourism Australia, where it was about hidden gems in Australia, and there was a text telling you to tap on the picture that says B, and then when you did, it revealed the picture. I've also seen this feature work very well in posts by hotels and by cruise lines. Finally, there are horizontal posts where you have to turn your phone sideways and then go on an interactive journey. So the one at the top was set in Hong Kong, and here you had to navigate the character to eat food, go shopping, and do other activities in Hong Kong. On the bottom is a similar kind of post by Delta Airlines, where you explore a Delta aircraft, learning about what you can get in each class, and including amenities like in-flight meal services. These are really fun and memorable, and I hope that we will see more creative content like this in the future. So if you want more really detailed information and lots of numbers and the full rankings for social media rankings for WeChat and Weibo, please do check the reports that are on our website under brand rankings. You can also check the weekly Weibo and WeChat rankings that we publish there, and we also publish those weekly rankings on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We also summarize the latest Chinese social media trends in our monthly newsletter. And on the resources section of our website, you will find lots of both coronavirus-related and non-coronavirus-related information on Chinese outbound tourism and digital marketing. And if you haven't already, you can request a free electronic copy of the book, China, the Future of Travel, by going to chinafutureoftravel.com and just filling out a brief form there, and then we'll send you the electronic copy. Our next webinar will be a month from now on the 18th of March, and we'll plan to update you on the coronavirus situation, its impact on tourism, sentiment analysis from Chinese travel trade and consumers, and plans for recovery. We'll have registration details for that up shortly on the event section of the website, and I hope that by that time we'll have a clearer picture of the situation and also some positive developments in the fight against the virus. For those of you who speak Mandarin or have Chinese colleagues who might be interested, Dragon Trail is running a full-day online summit this Friday about recovery from the coronavirus crisis. We have a lineup of expert speakers from across the travel industry, and you can find out more about the summit on our website and scan the QR code that you see here to join the summit WeChat group and register to attend on Friday. Thank you very much for attending today. I am now open to take your questions, so please do send those in by using the Q&A button.